Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Change Podcast. I'm Nicole Harvick. I am your host today, and we have a very interesting guest today, and I'm really excited to talk to her. Now, she's many things, which are all impressive. She is an award-winning realtor. She is an author of Your Sacred Heart. But I think the thing that stood out most to me was she helps women reclaim their voice. And I truly resonate with that as I lost mine for quite some time. So would you please welcome Heather Gill? Heather, how are you today?
Doing great. I so appreciate you letting me be on your show this morning.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things I love most about doing a podcast is I always learn something. And when I saw your bio, I know this will be not only an interesting conversation, but this will be a healthy and helpful conversation as well. So do you want to tell us briefly about your award-winning real estate accolades? Yeah, I'd love to hear about that.
Okay, I'll toot my horn for a minute, twist my arm. So
Please.
I've been a realtor for a number of years, and I'm so grateful. I was named best real estate agent in Carrollton, Texas for 4 years in a row. So that was, real appreciative of that. And then the past couple of years, I've reached my cap with my broker, which is another milestone for my business. And I thoroughly enjoy working with people and helping them and guide them through that journey of home buying and home selling. Yeah.
And it is a journey, isn't it? It's, from having done that in the past, it's so personal for everyone. It's like you're selling them a house that they're going to live in, so it has to be perfect for them. So congratulations for all of that. Now, I'll be honest, I'm really interested in the fact that you're an author of a book called The Sacred Heart. Can you tell us about that and where that name came from?
Sure thing. So Journey to Your Sacred Heart is a book that I'm still writing. It's not out just yet. Okay. It is the journey that I've been on personally over the course of my lifetime, I'll say. Catalyst for this, couple of different catalysts. I would say the main catalyst points for this book are my religious deconstruction journey, and then heartbreaking breakup situation, marriage that didn't work out, and all the pain and suffering that goes through that and with that. So yeah, one of the hallmarks of change for anyone in life is, I would say, brutal honesty. If we're not honest with ourselves, if we're not honest about our situation, if we're not being true to who we are, we're just setting ourselves up for a world of suffering and a world of pain by living inside of an illusion. And this book is in part stripping away that illusion and seeing things as they truly are.
I love that. And one of the things that I learned is, you talk about brutal honesty, and I personally had to look at myself as well. And that was really, really hard because there are two people in a marriage. And even though I was married to a narcissist, when I really reflected honestly with myself, I could look at it from like different goggles, if you will. And I was not interested in him for the longest time because he suppressed my voice. He suppressed who I was. And I felt like I had to change for him. So there was a lot of animosity there. So does your book speak of those kind of situations?
Yeah. Again, we have to be true to what our situation was. We have to embrace the truth of it. So as I've looked back over 30, 40 years of my life and the times when I was very religious and the times that I was in relationships that didn't work out for me, the pattern is that of me abandoning myself. And I think there's a conditioning, especially with women. We're conditioned in society to play a certain role, to show up a certain way, to not rock the boat, and to get things done. Legit, we are. You can see that conditioning through religious expectations, through societal expectations, through expectations in certain relationships. And if we're honest and we take a step back and we look at the overall pattern, that allows us to say, wait a minute, I've been conditioned to abandon myself. Okay, well, if I've been conditioned to abandon myself, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to reclaim who I am, to show up as my authentic self, because the world isn't going to change with a bunch of us running around not being who we are. It's our true authentic self. When we show up in that way, that's when things happen in life, right? I mean,
Oh,
that's where the
absolutely.
power is. That's where the magic happens.
Hmm. And you know, if I, as I look back, if I would have used my authentic self to pick boyfriends or pick mates, it would have been a completely different outcome. But I was able to, during my healing, look back at every single person that I've only been married once, but I've had boyfriends, and I'm
Sure.
like, my gosh, I picked the same type of person every single time. So that was like an epiphany for me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's me. I have to change me. Well, not really change me, but just become who I was meant to be.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. When you start stripping away the layers of illusion, you get to the bedrock of your soul and who you really are. And again, that's where the
Yeah.
magic is. That's where your true authentic self lives. And again, this is who we need to be for ourselves, and then who we need to be for society. A lot of what I do with women and helping them reclaim those parts of themselves, you can read a book and we can understand like the linear, okay, well, it should look like this and it should be like this and this is how it should present or whatever. But like, I like to think of it in the terms of storytelling, and what role am I playing, and what role do I maybe need to take back. We think of archetypes, right? And an archetype
Mhm.
that's important in this process is the alchemist. And what do alchemists do? What's the main storyline there?
Yeah, and that's the name of my next book, is The Alchemy of Forgiveness. And I
Hey,
tell
there
people,
you
I
go.
said, yeah, I tell people, I said, what I did is I changed all of my negatives into positives. And
There
as
you
I
go.
look back at my journey, what I realize is it didn't happen to me, it happened for me. And
Mm,
that was a huge, like, wow moment for me. And
mm,
I don't, I can't regret anything now, because it helped me become that true, authentic self that I am, and
yeah.
have the ability to help other people. Do you look back at yours like that,
Oh,
or is it a little bit?
I mean, God bless everything that's happened in my life. I mean, it's been a difficult road. So many things. I could talk for hours about the pain and the disappointments and the suffering and the abandonment, and I mean all the things. But ultimately, I've been able to alchemize these things through forgiveness, through going through it, through letting it move through me and out of me into something much more precious than the original situation. And so, yeah, I mean, being the alchemist in your own life, transmuting those patterns and that pain through you, out of you, and moving into the next phase of your life is just, it's a beautiful process. Not a lot of people go through that though. A lot of people hang on to their hurt and their pain, and they're just like a bulldog with a bone, and they just don't want to let it go. And I'm like, well, if you'll go through it, allow it to be painful, allow it to be what it is, and allow it just to move through your system, that's where the power is. That's where it
Mhm.
is.
And it's not an easy journey at all, as you know. And the I just looked at, as I look at it now, the pain was the growth. The pain
Yeah,
was the truth. The pain was the acknowledgement.
right.
And we are kind of conditioned to not my fault, not my fault. And yeah, part of it was my fault. And
Yeah.
so it was so painful for me that my hair was falling out and I was
Mm,
scratching my skin until it bled. And I thought, oh girl, you got to get some help here. And I of all the modalities I know in healing and studied for and work with, I had left out forgiveness.
mm.
I had
It's
left out
important.
forgiveness.
It's important to forgive ourselves. And I think it's good when we can get to the point of forgiving, whoever the aggressor was. And that's a journey for everybody, and that could take time. And you know, people are on their own path. And I mean, I know some people that they've forgotten about it. They've made peace with it, but they're not necessarily waving the flag of forgiveness. But it's an important thing to move toward, right? And whatever that looks like for the person, it looks like. That's beautiful, though.
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
I just didn't want to carry that pain anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for me, forgiveness was huge. And my thing is that, if for him to have said, spoke, or done all that he did, he didn't care about me enough to not do it. So why would I want to carry his burden? Because one of the things I learned is it's never about us, whatever their anger or putting us down is, it's about inside of them. Right. And I can't control that. Right. So I learned that I'd rather release it and let it go and become who I'm supposed to be. And I know now that I will always be morphing and growing.
I love this. This makes me think of another archetype that I often work with women in, and it's called the sovereign. And the sovereign archetype helps us with boundaries, worthiness, and self-loyalty. You loved yourself and you were loyal enough to yourself to realize, I'm not going to carry this. I'm going to let this go. Like, why would I do that to myself? And unforgiveness is like poison. Isn't that what they say? You sit there in that judgment and that hatred and that anger, and it's not doing you a bit of good, and they don't care. They've already moved on. It doesn't affect them.
Exactly. And they, like mine, he doesn't even remember. So it's like, why? And the Four Agreements is what I read by Don Ruiz. And that's where it's, that was an epiphany for me as well. Very simple book, but that's where he said, it's not about you. So release it and let it go. And I'll tell you, I had a huge epiphany with my mother. She was dying during this time, and she'd always said she'd forgiven my father because they divorced years earlier. And 3 days before she died, she, looked at me and said, he slept with all my friends. And I thought, she never forgave him. And that was like my wow moment. It's like, that's what I'm missing. That's what I'm missing. So how do you guide women? Do you guide women through forgiveness on their journey?
Well, I mean, of course. I mean, but some people aren't quite there. When you're dealing with women who have suffered under religious systems, I mean, the religious system will tell you all day that you have to forgive. I mean, you go and hear any sermon given on any Sunday morning by any pastor, 9 times out of 10, they're saying the word forgiveness at least once. So it's really ingrained, and it can be triggering to certain women coming out of religious indoctrination, right? So yes, I do, but I tread lightly there because they need to be able to get to the point where they're releasing things in their own time and they're allowing those things to move through them. So yes, and in their own time.
Yeah. Now, do you have personal experience with the religious indoctrination, right?
Yeah, I do.
How did you recognize that?
I grew up in small town Oklahoma, and the youth group became very important to me because it was a really safe space. Life was a little chaotic at home, and that was a fun place to be. I made some great friends. I learned about God, loved worship, just really fell in love with the whole community aspect of church and youth group and all the things related. And I stayed in that system until I was in my 30s. And I was very devout, very devoted, very committed to walking the walk, talking the talk. I went on several mission trips. I went to Bible college. I thought I was going to be a worship pastor. I mean, like hook, line, and sinker. I was in, man. I was all the way in. And I just had this nagging feeling. There were a few things that really bothered me. One, for the most part, it's very male dominated. We were talking about this earlier with real estate. Back in the 80s, you were saying it was very male dominated. There's still some of that in real estate too. But in the church system, like in most traditional churches, like the man is the head, and you don't mess with that. And if you disagree, you're disagreeing with God. And like there's all these layers, and I was like, I know I'm going to disagree with the pastor. I know I'm going to be up on the chopping block if I'm not toting the line. So I'm like, I know that could be a problem for me. And then the other thing that really, really straw that broke the camel's back moment, I was on a stage helping to lead worship during Revival Mania in this charismatic church in Texas. And I remember sitting there, I was on the worship team, and I'm like, we're doing the same songs every night, same song and dance every night, same song and dance, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And I'm like, there's something going on here. It felt very manipulative after a week of this, 2 weeks of this. And I brought it up, mentioned it to leadership, and they're like, well, these are revival songs. This is what we do. We're just going to stick to the plan. And I'm like, oh, okay, I see what's going on now. It is manipulation. It had nothing to do with let's honor God, see what he wants to hear us sing, whatever. It was very much the pattern. And once I saw that pattern and once I realized what was going on, I had to step away. I mean, I've literally not been in a church in any like real capacity or like consistent since that time. And that was 15 years ago. That's been a while. Yeah.
So is that, would you consider that, not everyone, but you consider that religious conditioning?
Yeah, because so again, as a woman, we're given a role to play in society. And women typically aren't the pastors. I mean, in some churches, it's becoming more mainstream for that role to be a woman, but women have their place in the church, and you're usually in the nursery or you're usually training the youth. You might be doing something like a food pantry or something like that, but that's it. And in addition to that, you're taught repeatedly the man's the head of the house. You're taught the pastor's the head of the church, and you're taught that you need these people in order to hear from Jesus. I mean, this is how they set it up. This is how they expect it to go. And I just don't believe any of that anymore. I just don't. I feel like I hear God directly all the time. I have an intuition. It speaks to me. I don't need anybody ahead of me or above me or whatever. Like, I have a direct path. And so I feel like that conditioning is one of submission and one of structure and hierarchy. And I don't believe any of it anymore.
I'm just curious, did you ever question that while you were involved in it and started realizing that this was not for you?
Yeah.
How was that met?
Well, fun story. So during this charismatic mania kind of thing, several other friends of mine that were in the same church, we all saw the same pattern. We all saw something very similar happening. And we all decided, well, we're just going to leave and start our own thing. Famous last words. Famous last words. So we tried to get together, and we thought, we're just going to make this work because we're not real satisfied with what we're seeing. We don't agree with everything. And I swear within 6 months, we had almost all killed each other.
Oh, goodness.
We all had different expectations of what this is supposed to look like. And none of us could agree. And so we all just agreed to disagree, and we all just stopped trying to meet like that.
Yeah, hey, it is what it is, right? And but one of the things you mentioned that you have a direct path to God. And I personally think we all do as well. And I personally think God lives inside of us. Because it says we're made in his image. Yeah. But how do you, once someone is conditioned, how do you start the conversation to uncondition?
Well, I mean, with anything, there has to be awareness. If there's no awareness that there's something going on, then there's no curiosity to make a change. People have to be aware. I mean, it's almost like, different situation, but same awareness needed. If somebody's an alcoholic, if somebody's drinking, if somebody has that kind of lifestyle, unless they have some kind of moment of awareness that maybe what they're doing isn't working for them, they're not going to change. And so there are plenty of people that are in the church and they're happy with it and it's working for them. Good for them. I wish them all the best. I'm not here to like rattle everybody and say y'all are wrong. I'm just saying, I think there's a better way. And I feel like the system is antiquated. I feel like it's very, I'm going to say misogynistic. I feel like it's very patriarchal. I feel like it's a way to keep women in their place, keep them down, keep them conditioned so that we don't step into the fullness of who we are. I mean, we as women have so much to bring to this world. And if women were in charge right now, I don't think half of what's happening in DC would be happening. I'm just saying.
I'm high-fiving you on that one for sure. We're just, we can bring a calm to things. Because, and yes, women have egos, but I think men really have egos. And when they're put in those power positions or leadership positions, it grows and grows and grows.
Yeah.
And it's disturbing, even what I see going on in society right now, is that we are the lesser sex when we are actually portals of new life. So it's really baffling to me that this is where we're at, and they're starting to take away our rights again. How do you feel about that?
Uh, Christian nationalism bothers me extremely, and I've been very vocal about it. Been on other podcasts talking about it. I, you know, again, conditioning. It seems like the powers that be, and I use the powers that be like in quotes. I mean, I don't know how to explain it other than that. It just seems like there's a movement to tame us or to put us in a box or to wrap us back up or whatever, like to take that position of authority over us. And I'm with you. I mean, I don't want any of the rights that I have right now taken away from me. Case in point, here's a story I think a lot of people would relate to, understand, and see the value in. My grandmother, okay, she had 12 kids. I mean, we're talking Oklahoma, small town Oklahoma. They were farmers. My mom was number 11 of 12. Okay, so my grandma was much older. Okay, and she couldn't leave. I mean, we're talking 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, that range, that era. And she did not have the capacity to take her children and make a different decision. She just didn't. She didn't have the finances to do it. She didn't have the societal structure that would allow her to do that. She certainly, I mean, what was she going to do? She couldn't even probably open a bank account in her own name at that time, the 50s, whatever. I mean, some of these things are newer. She couldn't have taken a credit card out. That didn't happen until the 70s or whatever for women, with her husband signing off on. She was so stuck, and it was so bad for her and so bad for her daughters because of what was going on in the household. And when I think of that, and I think about what they're talking about with Christian nationalism and all the things I'm seeing on social media, how they want to take us back to the 60s or whatever, I'm like, no, thank you. No, thank you. It's not anything I'm interested in. And I don't think any woman alive on the planet wants to go back to that. So
why would we? Why were we ever there to begin with, if you think about it? I'm just curious, did you ever watch The Handmaid's Tale?
I have not watched it. I've seen a lot of these dystopian type of things. I have not watched that one yet. It's on my list. I had to watch Ted Lasso first.
Okay.
Yeah, I needed a little humor. So
well, when I watched that, I needed like counseling, but also humor would have been wonderful too. But you're right. I don't know, why would you want dominion over someone else? Why would you want dominion over your wife? Why, when you're supposed to be in unison and working together, where does this mentality come from?
All I'm going to say is we keep getting admonished to vote for the lesser of two evils every single flipping election. And it's no wonder we're in the state that we're in, because we keep voting for evil. I mean, even if it's lesser evil, it's still freaking evil. I mean, I don't know. To me, I don't get it. Again, I think people are unaware. They just are so like conditioned into, here's what the story is, here's how we play the role, here's what we do. Like, they're so conditioned and brainwashed into that's the only solution, that they just keep rinsing and repeating the same thing over and over. There are people that just want to keep that moving forward. And I'm like, it's got to stop. It's got to stop.
Why?
This is making me think there are two other archetypes that really lean into what we're talking about right now, because, we've talked about the alchemist, we've talked about the sovereign, but the mystic archetype is the one that's emotional presence and inner stillness, right? It's all about inner awareness and embodying that, the mystic, and that hearing and listening and being in tune with your intuition, right? That's so needed in our society right now as women, as we embrace that part of ourselves. that in tune part of ourselves. If enough of us wake up in that way and we start embracing that, I mean, what amazing change would happen on this
Oh,
planet?
absolutely. I truly believe that, and for me, one of the first things I do in the morning is I go right into meditation because it
Yeah.
just calms your nervous system. It
Yeah.
calms everything. Now, you spoke about nervous system as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, absolutely. It's none of this is just this. We can talk all day and we can be intellectual about things all day, but in our body is where we have the most power. As you mentioned, we are women, we birth, we create. Like our bodies are so a part of what we bring to the table. And this leans into the fourth archetype I talk about, which is the wild heart, which is all about joy, re-enchantment, and creative rebirth. Like these are the things that we do in life, and being in tune with our bodies and really being in our bodies. I have a good friend she's a yogi, and she teaches yoga, and she's done a lot of work with me over the years and teaching me how to really center and be within myself, because that's where my true power is, not up here. I mean, I can talk all day and be intellectual, but like right here in the core of who I am and in the embodiment of my soul, right?
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. And many, many years ago, when I started on my journey, I was told we are like two separate people. The brain
Mm.
is attached to the body, and the mind is attached to the soul. And
Yeah.
our brain is just like that computer that keeps us on track. But that
Right.
mind is what connects to the heavens, what connects to truth, what connects to the mystic in us. And it really, if you know yourself and love yourself and work it never is wrong. It shows
Yeah.
you why or why not, shows you where or where not to be. And I'm to the
Yeah.
point now where I rely on that, and it
Mhm.
keeps me at peace inside.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a methodology I train with, that I train and I explain to women. It's called the Sovereign Heart Compass. And it's all about getting back into that place of really trusting yourself and trusting your own intuition so that you can move forward in life and not be just stuck in your head all the time or living from that conditioned space, right? Super important for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, I am seeing where I'm looking and researching, there seems to be a lot of awareness, but I still think there's a lot of poo-pooing our
Mhm.
stuff, our minds, our what we think, and I think those are the people that would love to suppress us.
Oh, I mean,
So
all
I'm
day, every
not
day on my
having
Facebook. Yeah.
anything to do with that.
Yeah.
Easy. Now we're almost out of time, and I could really talk to you all day. I know
Same.
we'd have a fascinating conversation, but
Right.
but but before you leave today, just give us some like golden nuggets of how to be calm, how to honor yourself, how to understand your power, just something that will maybe brighten someone's day for them.
Sure. We've talked a little bit about archetypes this morning, and I would say being aware of what archetype you're in any given moment. Like, how am I moving in this given moment, and like, how is that person I'm talking to showing up in this moment, right? So thinking about people in this archetypal kind of way is very empowering because it gives you a different perspective of the situation that you're in. We've been discussing this morning the alchemist, transmuting lead into gold, right? That's the story. That's what we can do with our own hearts and our own situations. The sovereign, the boundaries and the worthiness and the self-loyalty, and really reclaiming that for ourselves. Am I living a sovereign life? Am I being sovereign in this relationship? Am I being sovereign at work? Am I being sovereign within my own self with my spouse or my kids or what have you? And then the mystic, that inner peace, that stillness, that voice that speaks. And then the wild heart, that part of ourselves that's the joy, the re-enchantment with life, the creativity. I think these are important questions to ask ourselves in a given day, and I think that's a very helpful tip to give.
Thank you so much for that. And we are at the end already. What I'd like to tell our audience is that if you would like to connect with this very knowledgeable and wonderful lady, please go, and in her description, you will find links to connect with her. And as for me, I have had an amazing time. I have learned so much today and enjoyed it so much. There's not a lot of people at times for me to chat with openly and freely. I appreciate your time today. I appreciate you coming, and thank you so much. You are so interesting, so knowledgeable, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate being on your podcast today. It's been really wonderful for me too.
Thank you. And to everyone else out there, I will be back tomorrow with more amazing guests. Thank you.